Hello and welcome to Carol's Kitchen. And today I thought I would make what I call like an inside out loaf. So the loaf basically contains everything that you might actually put on it. It's a meal in itself. So I've adapted a recipe which I found because I've added a few extra bits and pieces to it. I've also made it vegetarian. So the original recipe has ham in it, so you could add ham to this, but I am adding other things instead and making this into a vegetarian version because I don't have any ham. Now the reason I decided to make this today is because I found some things in my cupboard and in my fridge which needed using up. So I found some courgettes in the fridge which needed using up, and I found a jar of black olives. Now I love using black olives in my cooking, but actually what I really like doing is eating them, preferably with a gin and tonic, but I don't drink on my own, so at the moment don't need it. I'll use it in my cooking. So in my bowl I have got, I don't know whether you can see this very well, I have got, there we go, some ground almonds, I've got some bicarbonate of soda, and I've got some arrowroot. Now arrowroot is a starch, it's a low carb starch which holds everything together instead of using flour. So, but you could use cornflour. Cornflour does exactly the same thing as arrowroot. The only time you would use them differently is if, for instance, you would use corn flour to thicken a casserole, and you would use arrowroot, or my mother used to use arrowroot when she made a lemon meringue pie, for instance. So that was more of a fruity thing, and it thickened, but thickened clearly. So, but in baking like this, one is interchangeable for the other. But I have both in the cupboard, so I'm using arrowroot today. And so I've got those ready in my bowl. So I'm going to mix those together. Now, if you don't like ground almonds, you could use almond flour, which would make it slightly more cakey, but less almondy. Or you could use coconut flour or any other kind of nut flour, but my cooking is all sugar free and as low carbohydrate as I can. So in this bowl I'm going to add some grated courgette. So that is about half of an average length courgette in there. Then I've got some Parmesan cheese which I've grated. Now I keep my Parmesan, I grate the whole slab when I get it home, and then I put it in the freezer, and then it's all ready because you can use it ready frozen from the freezer, and I use it from there, and it means that I can use a little bit, put it back in. Whereas when I used to keep it in the fridge, it would eventually go a bit mouldy and I'd have to cut a bit off. Now Parmesan's not cheap, so, and I hate wasting food anyway, so why would I do that? So that's why I now keep it ready grated in the freezer. Now I'm going to add my roughly chopped black olives and I'm going to add some sun-dried tomatoes, which I really love. I love sun-dried tomatoes. I love the flavour they give to things. Unless you grow tomatoes in the garden, fresh tomatoes have very little flavour, it seems, these days compared to how they used to be when I was much younger. So I will use sun-dried tomatoes a lot, and I always have a jar which I keep in my fridge. Now, okay, so they're all mixed together, and then we're going to add some eggs and some cider vinegar. So I will crack the eggs individually into a separate bowl, which I've talked about on previous videos, because that just ensures that, just in case on the odd occasion that there is an egg that's not so fresh, that it doesn't waste the rest of your ingredients. Now, the only time, I must admit, the only time I've ever had an egg that was bad was from a friend who kept chickens. So generally speaking, I think supermarket eggs, I think, are x-rayed these days to make sure that there's nothing funny going on inside. But just in case. And these are supermarket eggs, because at the moment I can't get farm eggs. Because my supplier is a gentleman who is over 70, so he can't come. So right, I'm now going to add some apples. This is cider vinegar. So this is actually organic cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar. Well, cider vinegar is made from apples, so you know, it's just cider vinegar. So just checking the recipe just to make sure that I don't add too much. Okay, it only needs about a teaspoon. There we go. So teaspoon of that in there. And now we're going to mix it all together. Now I haven't, the original recipe is larger than this. It uses a lot more eggs. It makes a much larger loaf, which I don't need. And also I don't want to use 5 or 6 eggs on something just now. I just want to be a little bit more aware of what's available, and also creating things that are not just for families, but also for those of us who are in lockdown on our own. So now I'm going to put it in the loaf tin. Now I've got one of these rubber ones, so, well, they're silicone, aren't they? So I use one of these. I don't have to prepare it in any way because it pops out. If you have a metal loaf tin, you must line it. Line it with some kind of non-stick paper, or the loaf will stick, and it will make a terrible mess. So let's make sure that we get all of the goodness out of that bowl. Don't want to waste anything. You could add, one of the things I like to add to these loaves, if I have it, is some herbs. So I don't happen to have any today, and I'm certainly not going to the supermarket just to buy any. So okay, so we'll just press it into the corners, and then I'm going to put some pumpkin seeds on the top. So if you don't like pumpkin seeds, maybe use mixed seeds. I have used mixed seeds. But I'm just going to, I really don't like these plastic things for anything much, but anyway, okay. So I'm going to put a couple of handfuls, it's probably a couple of tablespoons on the top. Just spread them out so that I know that every single part of the loaf will get some. There we go. And then that goes into the oven, quite a low oven, and I will post the recipe below this video, and it will cook for about 45 minutes. So I'll just pause the video and show you the results, finished results. So this is the loaf before it goes in the oven. I'll show you the finished result when it comes out. So here is the finished loaf. nicely risen, and I'm going to leave it to cool for 5 minutes and then turn it out to cool on the cooling rack. And here is a slice of the cooled loaf. Now this is, if you make this twice the size, and obviously you can still use the same size tin, but it will be a much bigger slice. Now you can freeze slices of this and eat it straight, obviously eat it from the freezer. It won't take long to defrost, or you can actually defrost it in the microwave. You could put butter on it if you want to. You just eat it as it is. Makes a really good packed lunch. Something that, you know, if the weather's good and the kids want a picnic in the garden, then again, this makes a very good addition to the picnic. And you can add lots of other things to it. So you could add feta cheese to it, for instance. That would be quite nice. You can add ham, you can add cooked bacon if you want to. So play about with it, and let me know what you do. Post pictures in my Facebook group, which is Carol's Kitchen, and I will put the link below this video. And come and join us in there, and where we talk about all things food. So look forward to seeing you in there, and we'll be back in Carol's Kitchen another day.